Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking on what might be our most ambitious mission yet.
It's a big one.
Yeah, we're going to take all the stuff you consume every day. You know, the neuroscience hacks you hear on shows like The Diary of a CEO or the strange, compelling stories from creators like Mr. Ballen.
And even the fundamental laws of physics.
Exactly. Things like E equals MC squared. And we're not just going to summarize them. We're putting all of it through a kind of universal conversion filter.
And that filter is what our source material calls the absolute divine governance equation,
Right.
or ADGE for short.
Okay, so what's the core idea here?
The core idea really is that all this knowledge, facts, stories, science, if it just stays as information or entertainment, it's incomplete. The framework calls that rational thinking, or
We're
RT.
thinking about things.
Right. And our mission today is to show the benefit of moving all of that material from just thinking into the realm of what the sources call governance protocols, things you can actually run.
So, to get our heads around this, we have to start with a really foundational concept, this idea that reality has two distinct layers.
Two tiers, exactly. And we need to get the terminology right from the very beginning, or none of this will make sense.
All right, let's lay it out. The first tier is called LA2.
A lady Q. This is the surface truth. It's the appearance of things. It's the empirical data, the facts as we perceive them, what you can measure in a lab,
What?
the what, precisely. And then there's the destination, the second tier, Al-Haq.
And Al-Haq is different.
It's the absolute governance truth. It's not just what is happening, but why it's happening according to the system's design. It's the established purpose, the how and the why defined by the architect of the system.
Can you give us a concrete example?
Sure, let's take the brain. An ADQ, the surface truth, might tell you that a specific brain region, the locus coeruleus, fired and released norepinephrine. That's a fact. You can see it on a scan. Al-Haq, the governance truth, tells you the operational reason why your cognitive system commanded the locus coeruleus to fire that specific signal at that exact microsecond. It frames it as a command, not just a chemical reaction.
So the mission becomes really clear. We're not just here to collect more facts, to be well informed.
No, not at all.
We're here to show the actual measurable benefit of upgrading that knowledge, moving it from just, entertainment or a temporary fix to a permanent system level solution.
And ultimately to what the framework calls sovereignty advancement,
Mm.
gaining real operational control over your own system.
This is a huge undertaking. Let's get into the foundation we need to even begin this transformation.
Let's do it.
So before we can even start talking about transforming a concept like anxiety or an equation like EMC2, we have to completely reboot our basic understanding of the universe.
You have to. You have to shift the entire operating system, as you said. The default view is that the universe is a physical domain. It's about mass, energy, physics.
So that we're all taught.
Right. But the governance framework says no. The universe is fundamentally a domain of meticulous top-down governance.
Okay, so what defines that governance?
Two core concepts, Mulk and Dean. Mulk is the total governance of all creation. That includes the physical world we see, but also all the unperceived non-physical realms. It's everything.
And Dean?
Dean is the system itself, the established order, the complete cosmic framework with all its rules and protocols.
So all the physics we study, gravity, thermodynamics, quantum mechanics, where does that fit in? Is it wrong?
It's not wrong, it's just incomplete. It's a subset. The physical universe is a localized, engineered environment. The source material calls it a terminology training ground.
A training ground for what?
For us, for the human experience, it's part of the Dean of the overall system, but it's not the whole story. If you limit your entire worldview to only what physics can measure,
You're missing the point.
you're trying to understand an entire software program by only reading the help file for the calculator app. You're missing the architecture.
This completely changes our role in the universe then. We're not just, specks of dust orbiting a star in a random physical cosmos.
Not at all. In this model, you are a cognitive entity at the very center of your own operational system. And this brings us to the core of it all, the NAFs.
The NAFs, what is that exactly? Is it the soul, the self?
It's more like the complete operational system. It's you. It's the cognitive entity that's designed to be receptive to governance. The framework describes it as an uncut diamond.
An uncut diamond. So it has potential, but it needs work.
It requires polishing. And its purpose, its primary function is not what we usually think. It's not about survival or making money or even being happy.
So what is it?
It has two and only two core non-negotiable purposes. First, rigorous self-development, and second, helping others develop. Everything else you do in life, your job, your relationships, your health, is just the apparatus. It's the gym equipment you use to carry out those two functions.
And how do those two core purposes map onto the special terminology we need to learn?
They map directly. Self-development is driven by the protocol of Sa, and helping others develop is the protocol of Zakat.
Salat. I think most people hear that word and immediately think of ritual prayer.
And that's a surface-level understanding. In this governance lexicon, Salat is the system alignment protocol. It's the engine of self-development. It's a rigorous, structured methodology for acquiring knowledge and aligning your focus.
And zakat.
Zakat is the knowledge transfer protocol. It's the function of helping the network grow. It's not just about charity, it's about propagating development. We are designed to constantly iterate on ourselves and then share that upgrade with the network.
Okay, let's pause there because this next point is probably the hardest for people to get their heads around. The nature of what we see, the world.
The apparition.
The apparition. You're saying the physical universe, my own body, the economy. None of it is solid reality. That is a massive conceptual leap.
It is, but it's essential. They are phantasms. They are tools. Your spine, the stock market, the planet Earth, they're incredibly detailed, persistent, and highly functional tools.
Tools for what?
Tools placed within your unique NAF-centric universe, your NCU by the governor. Their one and only purpose is to provide the perfect environment to facilitate your NAFS's development. They are appearances, a needs cue.
So they're reliable, but they're not fundamental.
They are reliable, but they are subject to command override. And this is the critical point. If you mistake the tool, the apparition, for the ultimate, unchangeable reality, you have just introduced a massive systemic error into your entire operating model.
Okay, I think I'm following. The NAFS is this uncut diamond, this operational system. But if the whole system is designed by a perfect architect, why does it have flaws? Why does the diamond need polishing in the first place? Where do bad decisions and cognitive errors come from?
They come from the counterforce. The system is designed with a necessary friction generator, and the source of that error is called Iblis.
Now again, that's a word people associate with an external evil entity.
We have to be crystal clear on this. Iblis is not some guy with a pitchfork. It is the internal capacity for error. It is your own internal bias, your faulty logic, your predilections. It's rooted in what the source calls Nar.
And what is NAR?
Nar translates to man-made dim illumination. Think of it as a low-wattage light bulb in a dark room. That dim illumination is rational thinking when it's operating on its own, unguided by the larger governance framework.
So Iblis is basically my own rational thinking, my own logic, acting like it knows everything when it only has a tiny, dimly lit piece of the puzzle.
Precisely. It's the ego assuming its limited data set is the absolute truth. The framework calls Iblis the Zoj, the counterpart of the NAFs. It's a built-in essential opposition that provides the cognitive friction you need to grow.
Without that friction,
The diamond remains uncut. The NAFs never develops the strength or the wisdom to tell the difference between a true, system-aligned command and a faulty interpretation from its own internal bias.
this brings us to the actual process of polishing, what we generally call suffering or hardship. The sources call it usur.
Yes, Usur. And this is probably the single greatest misinterpretation of reality in the standard human model.
We see hardship as bad, as random, or a punishment, or a sign we failed.
And the governance model says it's none of those things. Usur is not punishment. It is mandatory, governed, and perfectly calibrated force.
Perfectly calibrated. Wait a minute. If I'm listening to this right now and I'm going through a terrible time, serious illness, financial ruin, heartbreak, and you're telling me that's perfectly calibrated and mandatory, that sounds, frankly, a little cruel. It sounds fatalistic.
I understand why it sounds that way, but it's actually the opposite of fatalism. It's the ultimate assurance. Because the system's core promise, an explicit guarantee, is that you are never burdened beyond your capacity.
That's capacity. You called it wusaha.
Your wusaha. The pain, the friction, is engineered with perfect precision to force a cognitive upgrade within the boundaries of what you are capable of handling. If you feel friction, it's a signal. The system is telling you that you've reached a limit, and a new level of self-development, a new application of salat, is required to move past it.
So the suffering isn't the point.
The suffering is the feeling of the polishing wheel against the diamond. The point is the polished surface that results from it. The growth is the point.
That reframes everything about adversity. Okay, To wrap up this foundational section, we need to finalize this new lexicon. We've touched on salat and zakat. Let's go deeper on salat and this surprising mathematical analogy you mentioned.
Right. So Salat is the system alignment protocol. It's this rigorous rhythmic process of fixing your focus on the process, not the outcome. It's how you acquire and integrate knowledge. And the source material defines it as being the mathematical parallel to the Fourier transform.
Okay, that is a very dense analogy. I don't think most of our listeners are experts in advanced signal processing. So break that down for us. What does a Fourier transform actually do?
In simple terms, the Fourier transform is a mathematical tool that takes a very complex, messy signal like a sound wave, or the chaotic fluctuations of the stock market.
Something that exists in time.
A
Jumble of data.
Exactly, a jumble of data in the time domain. That's the ADQ, the surface appearance. The transform then mathematically decomposes that messy signal into its clean, simple constituent frequency components,
It breaks it down into its core ingredient.
into its root causal structure. It lets you see the hidden order within the surface chaos. And that is precisely what Salat does on a cognitive level. It's the rigorous procedure that takes the confusing, noisy, temporal events of your life, the ADKEN, and decomposes them to extract their root governance command and their core learning objective, the Al-Haqqan.
So it's the ultimate tool for turning a messy problem into a set of clear, fundamental questions.
It's the ultimate tool for information decomposition. Yes.
Amazing. Okay, and finally, there's a security layer to this system. The word is taqwa.
Taqwa. This is the necessary discipline. And it's not about being afraid of making a mistake. It's about protection. It's like a cognitive firewall or an antivirus program.
A firewall against what?
Against system failure. It actively shields your arsh, which is your established worldview, your mental model of reality, from being infiltrated and corrupted by Iblis, by your own internal bias and faulty rational thinking.
So if Salat is the software you run to develop yourself,
Then Taqwa is the strict security protocol you follow to maintain the integrity of your entire operating system against malware.
foundation set. Now let's apply this. Let's
Yeah.
run some real-world concepts through this ADGE filter.
This is where it gets really practical.
With that entire framework established, let's apply it to the things that dominate our inner lives, neuroscience and psychology. We hear so much about brain chemistry, neurotransmitters. Let's start with a specific piece of brain hardware, the locus coeruleus, the LC.
Ah, yes, the LC. It's a star in pop neuroscience. It's that tiny bluish area in the brainstem.
Right, and the outie hue, the surface truth, is that it synthesizes norepinephrine, and it regulates things like arousal, vigilance, anxiety. It's our internal alarm system.
And that's all factually correct. It's good data, but it's incomplete. It's like describing a graphics card by only listing its chemical components.
So what's the ALHAC? In this new framework, the brain isn't the CEO. It's not the source of commands. It's the hardware that receives commands from the NAFs. So what's the ALC's real job?
Its governance role is to be the reality highlighting console.
The highlighting console.
Yes. Think of it like a cursor on a screen.
Yeah.
It's the dedicated physical interface that your NAFs uses to tag specific apparitions in your environment as significant or urgent.
And the norepinephrine it releases.
That's the urgency signal. It's the chemical apparition of the concept of importance.
Yeah.
So when you feel that jolt of sudden anxiety or alertness, that's your NAFs commanding the LC to highlight something in your environment that needs your immediate cognitive resources.
This draws a really clear line between a symptom and a command. And it perfectly explains something we've all experienced, what the source calls the white Toyota Tundra effect.
Yes, this is one of the cleanest, everyday proofs of this principle.
Explain it.
So you decide to buy a new car, you do your research, you settle on something a bit uncommon, say a white Toyota Tundra. You buy it, and then all of a sudden.
You see them everywhere, on every street corner.
Exactly. Were they always there? Yes. But they were completely invisible to you. They were filtered out of your perceived reality. The moment you make that decision, your NAFs issued a new significance command, and your LC highlighting console began actively prioritizing that specific apparition, rendering it visible in your conscious awareness.
So our perception of reality isn't a passive video feed. It's an actively curated, command-driven filter.
It is entirely governed by command. The framework even provides a formula for it, the sovereign reality filter equation. It states that your observed reality is the sum of all the apparitions tagged by your LC, multiplied by the strength and coherence of your NAF's command.
So if your command is weak or unfocused,
Your reality is blurry and confusing. If your command is strong but focused on fear, an Iblis command, Then the LC dutifully tags all the negative, threatening apparitions, and suddenly your perceived reality becomes saturated with proof that the world is a dangerous, scary place.
Let's apply this to a bigger narrative. The story of healing. Dr. Joe Dispenza's story is huge right now.
It's a very powerful story.
The rational thinking version, the odd cue, is that he was hit by a truck, shattered his spine, doctors told him he'd never walk again, he refused surgery, and used mind over matter to heal himself. It's an inspiring story of willpower.
It is. But the governance audit changes the mechanics of it. It strips away the sort of mystical mind over matter language and reveals the underlying protocol that was executed.
So where does the audit start? The accident.
It starts there. The accident wasn't a random tragedy. It was a governed apparition event. It was a customized incubator.
It's an incubator.
It was an event designed to instantly set his maximum capacity boundary, his wusaha. It forced him into a state of extreme high friction, which is usur. It created the perfect, albeit painful, laboratory for a massive cognitive upgrade.
So the standard story says his mind willed his body to change. What's the Al-Haq version of his healing process?
It wasn't mind over matter. It was command over apparition.
Command over apparition.
The spine, being an apparition, a tool, is mutable. It's subject to the governor's rules. Dispenza's intense, disciplined focus, his choice to issue the command for healing instead of despair, that was an act of ikhtiar, or free will. It was a highly coherent, powerful nafs command.
He talks about submitting the template to a higher power.
And that is a perfect description of executing the Salat protocol. He was ceding authority, becoming Muslim in the literal sense of submitting to the system, and generating a high-fidelity command to the governance system to remanifest the apparition of his spine according to the original template.
Okay, here's the big question people will have. If the spine is just an apparition, why do we need doctors at all? Why couldn't he just, snap his fingers and be healed instantly?
That is a critical point, and we'll touch on it again later with the hospital protocol. The governor provides apparitions tools to facilitate our development. Doctors, surgery, medicine. These are highly effective, advanced tools.
So ignoring them is a bad idea.
For most people, in most situations, ignoring the provided tool is a system misalignment. Dispenza's specific journey was engineered to develop his capacity to issue that healing command without those external resources. It was an extreme test of his wusaha. His healing was earned, the principle of lahama kasabat, through the disciplined execution of that very specific and difficult command protocol.
This redefinition of the body as a physical interface has huge implications for mental health. It suggests that what we call disorders aren't diseases of the brain.
They are symptoms of command failure. That is the ultimate mental health truth in this framework. The brain hardware isn't broken. The commands being sent by the nafs are misaligned, weak, or corrupted.
So when RT psychology talks about anxiety or depression being a chemical imbalance or a predictive error?
Those are accurate descriptions of the error to Q. They are the symptoms happening at the hardware level, but they are downstream effects of a deeper issue, a flickering, unstable command center.
Let's take a specific example. ADHD. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. How does that get transformed?
ADHD, in the governance lexicon, becomes command instability protocol.
Command instability protocol.
The command from the NAPS is erratic. It's flickering. It can't maintain a sustained focus on a single objective. This causes the LC highlighting console to flicker constantly between dozens of different apparitions.
And the hyperactivity is the physical result of that mental flickering.
Exactly. The body is just mirroring the chaotic state of the command center. So the protocol is not medication to manage the resulting chemical symptoms. The protocol is command stabilization.
And how do you do that?
Through rigorous salat repetition. The disciplined, rhythmic focus of salat forces the nafs command to become steady and coherent. And the practice of focus zikr, which means remembrance or repetition, is the calibration tool for the LC console, training it to hold focus and reducing that physical hyperactivity.
So this massive claim, a 70% reduction in mental health disorders in 10 years, it comes from this fundamental shift.
It comes from shifting the entire treatment model from managing symptoms at the hardware level to fixing the root problem at the command level. You're fixing the code, not just rebooting the machine over and over.
Let's apply this to emotions, specifically worry and addiction. We're usually taught that worry is a negative emotion to be avoided.
Right, we try to suppress it or distract ourselves from it. But in this framework, worry is incredibly useful. It's not an emotion to be suppressed. It's a system diagnostic flag.
A warning light on the dashboard.
Perfect analogy. If you are worried, it's a signal. Your IBLIS, your internal bias and faulty logic, is flagging a structural flaw in your worldview or your personal governance protocols.
So what do you do with it?
You don't run from it. You use SALA, that information decomposition method, to press into the friction, the errors, and identify the precise flaw that the pressure is designed to expose and polish. You investigate your worry as a critical piece of system data.
And addiction. We think of it as being addicted to a substance or a behavior.
That's the NQ, the surface appearance. The ALHAC, the governance truth, is that people become addicted to the internal emotional states that the substance or chaotic lifestyle generates.
You mean addicted to stress?
Addicted to stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, addicted to the feelings of anger, fear, victimhood, resentment. They subconsciously seek out bad jobs, toxic relationships, or scary news just to get their fix, to maintain that familiar physiological state. The source material is very clear. If you cannot voluntarily stop an emotion, you are demonstrating a dependency. You are addicted to it.
So the governance solution is to break that emotional dependency.
It has to be the first step. You stabilize the NAS command, which stops the LC from constantly highlighting negative apparitions that feed the addiction loop. You cut off the supply chain for the emotional state.
Okay, we've audited our inner life. Now let's turn this lens onto the stories we tell ourselves, the narratives that shape our culture.
This is a powerful application because stories are essentially governance case studies in disguise.
And there's no better source for strange, captivating narratives than the world of unexplained mysteries. Let's take the classic, the Dyatlov Pass incident.
The perfect example, the UNIQ of Dyatlov, is just bizarre. It's a dark, chilling, and totally mysterious story.
Let's recap it for anyone who doesn't know. 9 very experienced Russian hikers in the Ural Mountains in 1959. Their tent is found cut open from the inside.
And they fled, some without shoes, into minus 30-degree temperatures. The bodies were found scattered, some with massive internal injuries, but no external signs of trauma.
And some of the strangest details, like paradoxical undressing, where they seem to have torn their own clothes off as they were freezing to death.
Right. And rational thinking just hits a brick wall. It can't explain it. So you get this explosion of theories. It was a Yeti, a secret military weapon test, UFOs, infrasound, high strangeness.
But when we run the governance audit, the mystery dissolves. It transforms from an unexplained event into a tragic but very detailed case study of system failure.
It becomes a monument to cognitive failure under extreme, overwhelming stress. The initial crisis, which was most likely a slab avalanche, a wall of snow hitting the tent.
That was the U.S., the friction.
That was the pressure test. And it triggered a catastrophic collective core command override in the entire group.
What do you mean by core command override?
The primordial, Iblis-driven command, immediate escape from perceived danger, completely overrode their established, life-preserving trained command. Preserve body temperature at all costs.
It was a failure of their mental security, their taqwa.
A complete failure of the firewall. The immediate fear-based reaction vaporized years of disciplined training. They sliced open the tent and ran away from their only source of shelter, a fatal error.
What about those bizarre physical details, like the paradoxical undressing? That seems so unnatural.
That's a critical failure of the body's internal thermal governance system. It's an aberration failure, but it's triggered by the initial cognitive command failure.
How does it work?
In the final stages of extreme hypothermia, the system malfunctions. The blood vessels near the skin, which have been constricted to preserve heat, suddenly dilate. This sends a massive rush of warm blood to the extremities, creating a sudden, intense, and false sensation of burning heat.
So they felt like they were on fire.
And in that delirious state, they tear off their clothes, which of course seals their fate. It's a physical self-destruct mechanism, an error in the thermal apparition, triggered by the body's inability to manage the environment after the initial bad command.
And what about the endless focus on conspiracy theories that followed? The UFOs, the secret government tests?
That's the aftermath, and those are textbook examples of Iblis commands in disguise.
How sad.
They are cognitive distractions. They are more exciting, they are more mysterious, and they conveniently direct our collective consciousness away from analyzing the real, uncomfortable root causes. Poor decision-making under pressure, flawed situational assessment, and a deadly lack of stress-tested default protocols.
So the actual lesson from Dyatlov Pass isn't about Yetis.
The ALHAC lesson is brutally operational. When disaster strikes, you do not rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of your training. You must stress test your defaults through rigorous practice, through salat and taqwa, before the crisis ever hits.
Let's pivot from a narrative of disaster to a narrative of creation. Manifestation, gratitude, the law of attraction. This is an immensely popular set of ideas.
Huge. And for good reason. It contains elements of truth.
The innate cray is pretty straightforward, right? Focus your thoughts on what you want, visualize it, feel the emotions of having it, like gratitude and joy, and the universe or a higher power will manifest it in your reality.
That's the basic recipe. High-frequency emotions attract high-frequency outcomes. Low-frequency emotions like worry attract more negative outcomes.
So what does the governance transformation do to this? Is it wrong?
It's not wrong, but it's dangerously incomplete. The RT version often leads to what the framework calls shirk,
And shirk means?
core data corruption. Specifically, it means making partners with the governor. It's a violation of the system's hierarchy. When you visualize your dream house or perfect health, and that apparition becomes your Isla, your ultimate target of desire and reliance, you've just committed a major violation.
Wait, so visualizing my dream house is potentially a bad thing. That seems counterintuitive.
It's a flawed execution. You are focusing on the tool rather than the architect. You risk achieving that goal, but through a process called istidrej gradual entrapment. The system is designed to give you what you focus on, but if your focus is solely on the apparition, the house, it increases your attachment to the simulation. Often it will drain the baraka, the systemic efficiency, from other areas of your life, even as you get the house.
So you get the mansion, but your health fails or your family falls apart.
It's a classic pattern, a poor trade in the cosmic economy.
In The Secret, Rhonda Byrne made a key distinction. She said the most powerful state for manifestation wasn't just believing you would get something, but knowing it as if it had already happened.
And that knowing state is the threshold of governance. She stumbled upon a core principle. That feeling of knowing is the psychological experience of generating a high-fidelity command to the governance system.
You're not wishing for it.
You're not begging or wishing. You're executing a command protocol based on the knowledge that the system is perfectly governed and responsive. The manifestation, when it arrives, is the NAFs earning the outcome through disciplined execution. It's the truth of Lahama Kasabat. The NAS earns what it strives for through aligned action.
What about the little techniques people use, like creating a vacuum? You know, clearing a space in your closet for the new clothes you want, or buying a bigger bed for the partner you want to attract. Is that just superstition?
Not at all. That is an essential step in governance implementation. It is the act of aligning the physical apparition to receive the reality you have commanded.
It's a physical expression of the mental command.
Yes, it's a demonstration of your commitment. When you make physical space for a commanded outcome, you eliminate the cognitive dissonance that would otherwise weaken your NAS command strength. It's a powerful signal of disciplined faith in the system's responsiveness.
Okay, we've transformed our inner lives and our stories. Now we have to tackle the bedrock of rational thinking, hard science itself.
This is where we see that the framework isn't in conflict with science. It just places it within a much larger operational context.
Let's start with the language of science, mathematics. We're taught to see it as an abstract tool for measuring the world.
And in the Al-Haq framework, mathematics is far more than that. It is a governance instrument. It's the formal language of the established order, the deen. When we do math, we aren't just measuring a random universe. We are mapping the intricate and perfect rules of the governance system itself.
How does that change the meaning of the things we learned in school? Like, say, variables in algebra, solving for x.
Variables are no longer just unknown quantities to solve for. They become cognitive states to optimize. Every time you solve for x, you are running a cognitive rehearsal for the process of optimizing an unknown state within your own NAS.
And equations.
Equations are not just relationships to satisfy, they are governance protocols to execute. And something like calculus, specifically the concept of derivatives, the rate of change.
Yes.
That directly represents cognitive development velocities. It models the rate at which your NAFs is learning and adapting in response to the user, the friction it experiences.
Let's go back to the Fourier transform for a moment. We said it was the mathematical parallel to Salit. Can we unpack that a little more? How exactly does that analogy hold up, linking signal processing to a spiritual or cognitive methodology?
Absolutely. Think about the noise in your life. A confusing conflict at work, a recurring argument in a relationship, a persistent negative emotional loop you can't seem to break.
These are all complex, messy signals in the time domain, the Ennead queue.
Exactly. They are chaotic and hard to understand on the surface.
Yeah.
Now, when you engage in the protocol of Salat, you are deliberately forcing your mind into a structured, rhythmic, focused process. That disciplined process acts like the mathematical transform. It takes that confusing surface-level signal.
Who breaks it down?
It breaks it down into its pure, constituent frequencies. The underlying simple waves that, when added together, create the complex mess you experience.
And what do those frequencies represent in our lives?
They are the root commands, the Al-Haq structure. For instance, the surface noise might be the thought, my boss is ignoring me, I feel disrespected. That's the complex wave. After running the Salat decomposition protocol, you might extract the root frequencies, the core command flaws. One might be, I am